This is Mark Guerrero. Welcome to East L.A. Music Stories. My guest is Ron Reyes, who we always called Ronnie Reyes back in the day. And I still call you Ronnie a lot, Nick, and that's what it is, right?
Yep.
And he has a huge history, and we have a huge history together as well. So this will be really interesting. Back in
Yeah.
the 60s, Ronnie was in the Impalas, who were very popular around East LA. They made some records. He was in Strange Brew, who recorded for ABC Records in the mid 60s. He was in Olde Tyme Religion, who made two singles for Warner Brothers Records. He was in Yaki, who made a great album on Playboy Records in 1972.
Right.
He played with the Cannibal the Headhunters Band for years. He and I played together many times in my band, Mark Guerrero Radio Aztlan. We did a lot of recording together. So we got tons of stuff to talk about. But of course, we're going to start at the beginning. And I'll just start with this before we get into your influences and how you started becoming a musician. About the first time we were aware of each other, and that was a 1964 St. Alphonsus Auditorium dance. And so you were on first. The Impalas were on it. I had never seen you guys.
Word, yeah.
And well, I was going to also say that we were younger bands, right? Like the Midnighters, the Romancers. Most of those groups were like maybe seniors in high school, and we were like 10th graders. The
Yes.
Impalas and Mark and the Escorts and the Exotics and the Ever
Back.
were a little younger than some of those other groups. So we were kind of the new kids on the block. And I saw you up there and you were playing guitar and singing the song Gloria by Them with Van Morrison on lead vocals. And you were singing that, and I go, hey, wait a minute, I sing that song too. So I saw you as a rival. There's another guy singing the same song I'm singing tonight, one of the same songs, and playing guitar. Who's that dude, you know? And I talked to you, and you saw the same thing in me, right? So tell me what your
Yeah.
impression was.
I said the same thing. Who's this dude? You know, I heard of you were marking the escorts,
Right.
and I'm going, I've heard of this group, and I know that when I was with the Impalas, I was very much involved with a great friend of mine who I grew up with, and we were best friends, and we still are, George Ochoa.
Hmm.
And George had told me, had always backed up the Impalas. Always loved our group, and you guys are going to be incredible, in East L.A. You guys are a great band. So when I first saw you, I was intimidated to
Really?
tell you. Yeah, I was because I heard a lot of good things about your group. A lot of good things. A lot. Hey, there's this group, Mark and the Escorts. They do the Beatles. They do this. They do that. And I'm going, we're not doing that kind of stuff yet. We're doing Gloria and a different genre of music, but I wanted to be more into the Beatles, you know, but you guys had you had the harmony, man, and we
Mhm.
didn't. It was me, Alanaya, who could sing two-part harmony, and maybe sometimes Willie on drums. So we tried our best. You remember back in those days, I'm just going to go on another end right here, the Teenage Fair.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I remember because of Mark and the Escorts, I said, let's do a Beatle tune and let's really work hard at it to get the harmonies right. And we did the teen fair and everybody loved what we did. We did a Beatles tune. And it was what was that song? You say da 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 da
Yeah.
da da.
Things we say today.
Yeah, someday, and I'm going, and we sounded good. And I said, and Willie asked me, hey man, how come you want to do that tune? I go, because of Mark, that guy Mark, man. I
That
told
kid.
you that guy Mark. We got to be better than them. I said,
Oh, cool.
and Willie said, they're really good though. I go, does that mean we can't be? Okay, so that's where that started. So I took you as a rivalry.
Right, we were rivals. Our bands were rivals.
Giants and the Dodger rivalry. Come on.
That's right. And at that age, we were too young to be really we just didn't even speak to each other at that point in the beginning.
No, no, I wouldn't even think of it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to meet you. I thought, no, no, man, I'm the I'm the next thing. And I'm going, well, this guy thinks he's the next thing. We were both in, we were young, man.
Yeah. And in fact, I'm pretty sure it was that gig that somebody unplugged us. Were you there when we got unplugged?
Oh, yes, yes. And what happened? Who did that?
I'll never know. But we were playing, and
Good.
all of a
That's right.
sudden there was just drums. And then we found out some rival group unplugged us. And
Yes, they didn't like us.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
you
that
were
was
there.
my
You remember that?
you were my rival. Yep.
Okay, yeah. So that we started off as rivals. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
okay, so now that we've got that established, let's go back to the beginning of your musical life. Um,
Oh boy.
what got you to play guitar, first of all?
Okay, let me tell you that story. I was like you said, in 10th grade at Bell Gardens High School. I was a trumpet player, played trumpet. And I was doing very well. I was first chair. I learned how to read music, playing trumpet. So I learned how to read. I learned how to, all the things about music. And I noticed surf music was coming out then. Remember Dick Dale and the Dale Tones and all. And I started to listen to guitar and saxophone. I said, you know what? I'm going to try sax. So I got into tenor sax.
Hmm.
And I did pretty good, Mark, at tenor. I started playing pretty decent. But here's what I noticed. There were all these, at Bell Gardens, we had a very limited Mexican people at that time. It was more white.
Right.
And all these guys with their surfer hairdos and the look back in those days. But they were,
Penalties.
check it out, they were guitar players and check what was happening. They were getting all the girls, man. And they were guitar players.
Of course.
So I said, maybe I'm going to get into guitar and make myself a chick, They seem to be really into guitar players. And I got my first guitar, asked my mom, my poor mom, single mother. Well, I asked her, Mom, I want to play guitar. She goes, oh, no, no, no. You already asked me for a sax. I said, but we didn't buy it. We rented it. And you play trumpet. I don't know. I don't like this musician stuff that you're getting into. You ought to be like your brother and go to college and, all that stuff. And I said, oh, my brother was 4 years older than me, graduated on his way to college. You know, no, you got to pick something. I said, Mom, music is in me. I love it. And she says, I knew that would happen. I go, why? Because your dad was was into music, and all your cousins are into music. And I didn't know them. They were from Douglas, Arizona. Well, I said, okay, Mom, please, I'll prove to you I can do this. So she took me to Sears and Roebuck. You know what I got? The silver tone
Silvertone.
with the bass, that you had one, didn't you?
I never had a Silvertone, but a lot of people did.
The amplifier was in the case.
Yeah.
Cheapy little guitar. And guess what? After about 3 weeks, I started to learn all these chords, and I'm really woodshedding, just every day, just learning, going to hear friends of mine on the street that were much older than me, but good guitar player that I met. His name was Martin.
Now, how old are you at this time?
I was 13, 14 years old. So after 3 weeks, my mom brings home this album called Meet the Beatles.
Hmm.
Here's where it started. She told me there's a song on there that I love. If you can learn it and you play it the way that he's playing it, she meant George Harrison, it was Bells on a Hill.
Yeah.
Dun, dun,
Uh,
dun, 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 dun. Remember the solo?
Till There Was You.
Till There Was You. Oh,
Great,
thank
great solo. Great solo.
you. So my mom says, learn that solo. Learn that. You learn it, and I'll take you to buy a good guitar.
Hmm.
It took me a while, Mark. I was just starting, it took me a while. I was woodshedding every day, listening to that song every day, every day, every day. I learned it, and my mom came home from work. I go, Mom, sit on the couch. I'm going to play you the solo. And she laughed. She goes, oh, okay. I did it perfectly, note for note. She goes, and it's only like at this time it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She got home early that day from work. It was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll never forget this. She goes, okay, let's go. We're going to catch the bus to Whittier Boulevard. We didn't have a car.
Where'd you go? Story Music?
How'd you know?
Because that was the only place that sold instruments on Whittier Boulevard.
Well, we went to Story Music, and I found this cherry red Guild guitar. Cherry red, beautiful guitar, Guild. I go, Mom, I want that one. Oh, that's a pretty guitar, but that's a little too pricey. Back in those days, you know, it was like $140. That's pricey, pricey. And she goes, but you learn that solo. And she asked the guy to show me it, and I could feel it, and I played it. And the guy, the salesman goes, because I was playing Bells on the Hill. I'm sorry, Till There
Till there
Was
was,
You. I was playing, and he goes, oh, very nice. You got an up and coming young musician here. And she goes, oh, we'll see. She goes, how much? She goes, how much? The guitar was 140. I think he gave it to us for $120.
all right.
Gave me a bunch of picks, gave me a little cheapy case. That was my first guitar. That's how I started guitar. And so then when I went back to Bell Gardens after knowing this stuff, I started to play the surf music. But I was playing on the Guild. Guilds weren't, yeah, come on. They were playing on what tallies and strats.
Right.
But it's okay. It was a professional guitar. And I landed a girl, man.
Mm.
Hey, and see, I knew that would do it. And the story goes on from there, Mark.
Well, interestingly enough, I started on clarinet, and then I got a sax, and then I wound up on guitar too. So I did the same thing.
Well,
What chicks
what,
were you gonna
what
get playing
happened to you?
clarinet?
Yeah, well, clarinet is very close to sax.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying it's less hip than a sax back then, you know.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I even thought of getting the violin.
Oh, really? Wow.
Never did. You know.
Yeah. So now you have the good guitar, and you must have formed or joined the Impalas pretty soon after that, because you were probably 14 that day I saw you.
Yes, I did join very soon. Here's what happened. I had a decent guitar, but I didn't have a good amp. I had the Silvertone amp. Once again, my mom, everybody has these Fender piggyback amps. And she goes, oh, wait a minute now. Now you're asking me for an amplifier. I go, Mom, I'm going to be starting to play professional. There's a group up the street. She goes, have they heard you yet? I go, no, but I'm going to get that job. She goes, you sound very confident. If you get the job, I'll get you the amp. Once again, here we go again. Ultimatums, Mark, nothing but ultimatums with my mother. I go to audition. Now, Willie Alvarez, Willie, was a drummer, but he started playing guitar. So they were looking for a drummer. I walked in with my guitar, and Joe Alvarez, his brother, was a leader. And he said, well, let me hear you. Well, he heard me. And with that little thing on Gloria, dan, 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 he goes, oh, you got that perfect. And my brother doesn't have it. Do it, Will. He didn't have it right. I go, well, that's not right. Well, he got pissed off. So Joe says, hey, well, let's do another tune. Do you know any kind of like his dad used to have him do these old blues tunes, like these old blues, just 1-4-5 things. I didn't know anything about 1-4-5s, but it was a thing in the key of G. And he says, just take a solo on this. I didn't know, but I just did it by instinct. And then we had a meeting. He goes, you got the job, man. He goes, Willie, go back on drums. Willie became the drummer. I really would shed it like crazy because we're going to start playing our first gigs. So we got Alanaya, Alanaya, and We ended up getting Al and I was a sax player, okay? He was our sax player. He wasn't a singer yet. He was playing sax. We needed a vocalist. Willie was the vocalist back then. And I sang a little bit of vocal, but we really didn't have a vocalist. And then we heard Al sing, and he had a good voice,
He
man.
did. He did.
So we said, hey, Al, why don't you become the lead vocalist? Oh, I love that. But us, you can still play sax. Then we got this other guy, Ruben, I forget his last name, who played baritone. So we had a Barry and a tenor. And then we had the bass, guitar, and drums. Then we got a keyboard player by the name of David Valverde, who had the old Vox
Continental.
keyboard, Continental keyboard. And he was good. And that was the beginning of us getting our first gig. And it was at the uh, Little Union.
Really?
Remember the Little Union? They're on Olympic.
It was on Goodrich.
Goodrich, that's it. And we did real well. We got, I told my mom I was a pro because I got paid. It wasn't, what I got paid. It wasn't very much, but
But back then, for a teenager, it was what, at least 10, $20 at least, I
I
think.
got $25.
Yeah.
And you know what I spent it on?
What?
We went to go eat at our favorite restaurant up the street. And then, of course, I went and bought picks and that kind of stuff. So I told my mom, she goes, what'd you make? I said, $25. She goes, oh my God. Like, that's good.
It was.
That's good. And then it started from there, Mark. Then we started St. Alphonse. That's when Willie's dad had saw Eddie Torres at St. Alfonso's church. They used to go to St. Alfonso's church on Sundays. And Eddie was there all the time. And he knew he was a midnight. Midnighters were like the Beatles to us back then. They were the kings of East Los. He met it. He goes, you got to come here. My band, he was our manager. Willie's dad was our manager at that time. Willie and Joe Alvarez's dad. His name was Joe Alvarez. He brought Eddie Torres to hear us. He liked us. These guys have a lot of potential. So he says, do you mind if I take over as manager? And that's where it all started, Mark. We started doing San Alfonso,
Right.
all that.
Look, that explains how you guys got on the circuit really well.
It was Eddie.
Yeah.
And you know what? Eddie was very good to me. Very good to me. He was like a dad I didn't have because my dad had passed away.
Mm.
Eddie was took me under his wing. Very good to me. He took me to all the Midnighters rehearsals. That's where I met all the guys anyway.
So that was really the sort of the beginning of the East Side sound. You mentioned having a Barry and a tenor. We had a Barry and a tenor too, right around that time. A lot of
Mhm.
bands, Ronnie and the Casuals, a
Right.
lot of people had Barrys and tenors. But we're getting into the mid 60s when the East LA scene really started turning into a major thing. Tons of venues, tons of groups.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I have a few flyers here that the Impalas are on, and I'm going to read them. I'm going to show them on the screen. Um, like I said, I don't have all the flyers, but these are the ones I have. This one is May 8th, 1965, and it's St. Alphonsus Auditorium. The Midnighters with their new release, Whittier Boulevard, Little Willie G, the Four Queens, all girls band, Ricky Shade, the Slauson Brothers, who was George Ochoa and John Ochoa's brother, a vocal duo,
Right.
the Impalas Band, the Sisters with G Baby G. So as I recall, didn't you back up the Slauson Brothers at that time?
Yes. In fact, I wrote the song Rosary with George.
So how did you guys make that record?
How did we make it?
Yeah, how'd that opportunity come? That was before Eddie Torres, I think.
Yeah, well, George and I were always hanging, together all the time.
Yeah.
And George, he was very much into lyrics and the kind of the oldie scene. All we did all night was listen to KGFJ and all these. So George said, you know what, I'm going to write an oldie. He goes, and he asked me, Ron, do you have any ideas for this? I go, yeah, I do. And it was I just did this little thing, 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 ding, 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 you know. And George, when I had a girl, Rosalie, and we had played this. I'm trying to think, it was who heard us. Once again, I think Eddie stepped into the Eddie Torres, of course, because he had the link for us to get in the studio. He liked the song. He said, "Well, this is pretty nice. Let's go record it at the where we're doing. We recorded Rosalie, and they recorded another. I don't know the other tune they did. I'm trying to think. That's the only tune I think I recorded with George.
Do you remember what studio it was recorded in?
Where the Midnighters were doing all the recording.
Stereo Masters?
Yeah, Stereo Master.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did our records there too.
that's all that happened. And then, of course, Eddie put it out. And that was the beginning of the Slauson Brothers' career. But then again, that was the beginning of us remaking tunes. Band of Gold.
Right, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. So that Rosalie record you guys made wound up on that West Coast East Side Review album.
Yeah, it did.
And so did our record, Get Your Baby. We were on there. That was long before Eddie formed his own record label, Whittier Records. That's when you guys started recording all those other songs.
Yes, yeah.
So before we get to that, let's do some more of these flyers because it was actually before Whittier Records. So here's another one. The Midnighters featuring the Great Willie G, the Amber Tones, the VIPs, the Prophets, the Impalas, the Runabouts, the Unusuals, the Domains, the Exotics. Look at all those bands. Big Kennedy Hall, May 28th. And I'm guessing that's 1964 also. Do you remember that gig at all at the Kennedy Hall?
I sure do. Sure do. That was a big thing for us, Mark. Kennedy Hall was like a, I mean, we made it, man. Come on.
Kennedy Hall, are you kidding me? Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so that's cool. And then we have this one, Montebello Ballroom.
another one, yeah.
Yeah. So this flyer has two shows on it. It has Sunday, August 15th, 65, and then below it has the show from August 20th, 5 days later. So you guys were on the first show here, and the lineup on August 15th, 1965 was the Blue Satins, the Jades, and the Impalas. Sometimes they'd misspell your band's name as Impalas.
Okay.
Remember?
Yeah, yeah.
Just like us, when we were the men from sound, they put the man from sound. So here you're the Impalas. And then on the show at the bottom of the flyer for the next week, it's the Cascades, the Eternals, the Originals, the Blue Satins, Mark and the Escorts with their record Get Your Baby, and Danny and the Starlighters. So we were both on this flyer, but for two different shows.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And that was at the Montebello. Of course, we had to go up all those stairs, right?
I was just gonna tell you, that was brutal. We were young.
Yeah, we could do it. But did you ever play on the upper stage? For a while, they had a lower stage and an upper stage.
We played the upper stage, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did both. And that was because you had to go up more stairs to get to that stage. Okay, here's another one. Godfrey Dance Night, Big Union Hall, Saturday, the 11th of December. I'm pretty sure it's 64. And Don Julian, remember Don Julian and the Meadowlarks?
Dude.
Bobby Day, Rockin' Robin,
Hmm.
Don and Dewey. I'm leaving it up to you. Leaving it all up to you. A Sunny Night, Confidential, The Larks, The Jerk, Leon Peels and the Blue Jays, Johnny Flamingo, plus three great bands, the Ambertones, the Impalas, and Mark and the Escorts. We're together on this one. Once again, they had Impalas, man. These people that made the flyers could not spell sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the next one is Huntington Park Ballroom.
Yeah.
And this is the Midnighters with their hit record, Land of a Thousand Dances, and their latest release, Sad Girl and Heatwave, featuring Little Willie Chi, and then Little Ray, I Who Have Nothing and I've Been Trying, great record. The Blue Satins with their release, My Wife Can't Cook, remember that song?
Yeah.
And Little Ralph and the Impalas. The Impalas, that's when everybody started calling himself the, because the Midnighters did it first.
Yes,
So do you remember the Huntington Park Ballroom?
I do. I remember it very well.
And that
Huntington.
also, as I recall, had stairs going up to it. We had to carry stuff up.
Yep. Huntington Park Ballroom. Yes. Yes.
I
Yeah.
looked up the address and I think today it's some kind of a drugstore like CVS or something.
CVS. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Golden Gate Theater.
Yeah, that's a big
Yes.
CVS, I think. And here's another St. Alphonsus. Now, by this time, my band changed its name to the Men from Sound. And this is April 2nd, 1966. It's featuring the Midnighters and the Olympics. Remember Hully Gully?
Yeah.
And the bands were the Essence, the Impalas, Men from Sound, and the Runabouts. The Runabouts lead singer was Eddie Torres' brother, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bobby.
Bobby Torres. Yeah.
Did you know the guys in the Runabouts?
I knew the bass player. His name was Art Sanchez.
Was that him? Art Sanchez?
He was the bass player.
Did you know him already?
Yes.
Okay. So that was a cool dance. Now here's a biggie, and I've shown this on a lot of the shows. This is April 9th, 1966, at the Big Union Hall
Hmm.
in Vernon, city of Vernon, um, on 49th Street. Okay, this is the one that the star of the show was Dobie Gray, who had a big hit with the In Crowd. That night, we backed him up, and
Oh,
he actually came to our rehearsal during the day, and we rehearsed with him. It's amazing. We were just 15-year-old kids.
amazing.
Yeah, so we backed him up. And then it was the Midnighters were on the bill with Little Willie G, the Ambertones, the Men from Sound, the Exotics, the Runabouts, the Essence, and the Impalas. Do you remember the Essence?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're on a lot of the flyers. So that was a biggie at the Big Union, and we backed up Dobie Gray, and you guys were on the bill. But a lot of times we wouldn't see each other because we'd leave, right? We'd come,
Yeah.
we'd set up, we'd play, and then leave, and that's watch the rest of the bands. So that happened a lot. Okay, here's one East LA College Auditorium.
Geez.
I'm not sure if I guess this was one of those rock and roll shows. I'm not sure, but the Midnighters, and then the Ambertones, the Jaguars, Enchanters, Delighters, Medallions, Enchantments, Village Callers, Night Riders, Solace Brothers, Prophets, Impalas, Exciters, Vibratones. It had to be a rock and roll show. How do you have that many bands on a
No. Enchantments. That was Eddie Serrano.
on the Enchantments?
Yep. He was their lead vocalist.
Yeah, who wound up being your lead vocalist in the
And,
Yaqui,
yeah, exactly.
along with George Ochoa. And then here's one, October 8th, 1966, at the Big Union again. The Midnighters with Willie G, the Prophets, the Impalas, the Apollos, the Fabulous Sounds, the Runabouts, and the IBMs. Everybody is every single band. I just interviewed Bobby Navarrete, the sax player,
Oh, yeah.
and he was in the Fabulous Sounds back in these days. I didn't know that.
Bobby, yeah.
Yeah. And do you remember the Prophets? They were a really good band.
Sure do. In fact, the guitar player had my same last name, Bill Reyes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Bill Reyes.
And
Well, not the Bill Reyes that plays drums.
yeah, right. Different Bill Reyes. And they
Yeah, Bill.
had John DeLuna on drums before he was in El Chicano.
Yeah, yeah.
So those
Wow.
flyers I have that have the Impalas, which showed that we did a lot of gigs together.
a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, so then somewhere along the line, Eddie Torres started his own record label.
Yes,
The early Midnighters songs were in Chattahoochee, remember that?
yeah, I do.
And then he thought, well, I might as well form my own record company. He called it Whittier Records, and the Midnighters started recording on Whittier Records, and
Yeah,
so did you guys.
yes.
So tell me, I know some of them, but tell me some of the songs you guys recorded.
On Whittier,
Yeah.
Guess I'm Ready, Band of Gold, Come
Come
On
on,
Up.
come on up, I remember that. And you sang lead on that one.
Yeah, I sang lead on that. What was the other one? What was it called? God, it was an instrumental.
I don't remember.
It'll come back to me. I'm
But
trying to
Come On
remember.
Up was by the Young Rascals. And by
Yeah,
this time, around 66 or so, the Rascals were great. And everybody was doing Rascal songs.
huge, huge. Yes,
Ain't Gonna Eat Up My Heart Anymore, Groovin', Good
great song.
Lovin', uh, Love is a Beautiful Thing.
Oh, shit, they were just dominating. Our big claim to fame with the Impalas was Band of Gold.
Yeah.
They got some, little, it did a little shake up there in East L.A.
Sold some records, got some airplay.
Yeah, we sure did. Yeah,
Probably Huggy Boy played it and Godfrey, those kinds of people.
yeah, him and Godfrey. Godfrey was in doing a lot of stuff for the Midnighters too, and so was Huggy Boy. So yeah, Eddie got us that airplay.
hmm So before we move on to the next phase, do you have anything to say about that early Impalas phase, those venues, and what it was like in that 64, 65, 66 era? What was that like to you?
It was incredible. It was a joy. It was such a joy to get out there and play music. You would get this feeling of euphoria.
Especially because that was our first experience. That was our first era.
Because out of that, as you know, out of that era, we got to do the rock and roll show. We're on the one of those rock and roll show albums,
hmm
and it was just, it was like, the feeling was like, wow. I mean, I never thought this would happen. I never thought I would get to do this.
It was actually, you could say it was almost a magical time because we were young. All that great music was coming over the radio. We were playing these songs at these dances.
Bands too, Mark. So many bands.
Yeah.
It was just a great time. Yeah, it was a great, great time. Yes.
Yeah. But as time went on, it would always evolve and change. But that little era there really fit together. And a lot of the bands had similar sounds, similar instruments, uniforms. What kind of uniforms did you guys have with the
Well,
Impalas?
we had white leather jackets with
Oh, yeah.
black shirts, of course, and he even wanted to get us black leather pants. It was just funny, but our thing was white leather jackets. They were a regional facsimile thereof of leather.
Vinyl.
Thank
But
We couldn't afford leather. Yeah.
right. Um, what I'm saying is back then, all the bands had uniforms still
Yes.
in that era.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, then we got the kind of beetle look too.
yeah.
When they were wearing those those what were they called? Because we got those uniforms too. The suits they were wearing.
Oh, yeah. It's colorless.
Yes, thank you. That's it. We got those too.
Yeah. So that was cool. So then the next era was we were still the men from Sound. Uh, and then you guys, you wound up in a group called Strange Brew.
Oh,
So
yeah.
talk about that.
Strange Brew was a psychedelic type group. We were trying to emulate the Doors, uh, that era, kind of the fuzz tone that came out. Remember how popular was the fuzz tone and
We're talking like 1967 now. All that stuff was starting to happen.
we're more into trying to be, I could say, the like the Doors, because John McKean, the keyboard player, played very well, and he sounded like, we did Light My Fire. He did the exact solo, beautiful. But when we started to write our own music, of course, it was me writing, myself and John Ochoa, John, George's brother,
Hmm.
who was my pretty much my best friend back in those days, along with George. But me and John were more hanging together, and we started to write tunes for Strange Brew. Me and John. It Takes the Fool and all these other songs. Of course, Art Sanchez became involved with a lot. So it was me, Art, and John writing tunes, and then McKeon started writing.
And then you had Mark Moore on drums, didn't you?
Mark Mora and Tommy Lozano on lead vocals. And Tommy was very much into the Rascals, of course. And he had a good voice, very good singer, powerful singer. He was part of the Cannibal and the Headhunters too, with Frankie. He went to New York with Frankie.
Which was about a year or two later, 68.
That was yeah, that was Tommy, John McKeon, Mark Mora, myself, and Art Sanchez.
But here's the thing to mention that so at that period, that's when a lot of us started writing songs. Before that, it was all cover tunes in the era we talked about.
Yes,
Now people started writing, and from what I know, you got a record deal way back then. You guys were one of the first bands to get a major record deal on ABC Records, but that came through the Evergreen Blues.
yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Yes, it did.
So the Evergreen Blues were a great horn band out of
Yeah,
Montebello and multiracial, but they were great and they had a horn section. And they were the first group that I heard of in East LA that really had a major label deal. They were with Mercury Records. They did an album, and that's when they recorded Midnight Confessions before
ooh,
before the Grassroots
grassroots.
ever did it. And the Grassroots copied their rendition.
Oh, yes, they did. Yes, they
So
did.
anyway, so they had a record deal with their manager, Jimmy King.
Yes,
Then you guys met Jimmy King through Evergreen Blues, and he winds up signing you to ABC Records, right?
yes. And we did a couple of his tunes.
Right.
Yeah.
Which brings up the subject of Three's a Crowd.
Yes, yes,
That's the one that you guys recorded, Evergreen Blues recorded, and we recorded. We all recorded the same song around the same time, but the reason we got it was because our producer and engineer, Tommy Coe, was your engineer.
yes, he was.
And he was also, I think, Evergreen Blues. So I think Tommy brought that song to us too. So we all recorded it.
He's a crowd, and I don't need your company. Yeah.
And another funny thing that I learned from Art, was it Art? No, when I interviewed the guys from Evergreen Blues, Tom Bray and Hank Barrio, um, when Tommy gave us the song Three's a Crowd, I didn't want to sing it. You know, I wanted to write my own songs. I didn't quite love the song. So I said, hey, why don't you sing it? So I gave Ernie our first major record deal on Cap Records, KAPP, which was an MCA label. It was our first big major label because our Mark and the Escorts record was on GMP Crescendo, which was a big company, but it was independent. This was a major. And so our first opportunity, I said, oh, Ernie, you sing it. And and when I interviewed the guys from Evergreen Blues, they said, "Oh yeah, our lead singer Manny, he didn't want to sing it either, so Steve Lawrence sang it."
Yes,
Yeah, isn't that funny? Like neither two lead
yes.
singers didn't want to sing it.
How come? I wonder why.
What they didn't want to sing it?
Well, they wanted me to sing it.
Oh, they wanted. Did you sing it?
Doing a lot of lead vocals back in the day, Mark, a lot of them. And but I really wasn't. I would never considered myself a lead vocalist. I was like a I don't know. I can sing lead, but I like to do background. Art and I both were background vocalists. But I developed a certain style that had that kind of rough edge to it. You know that maybe you could do it like
Did
hey,
you sing lead on Your Three's a Crowd?
I didn't. Tommy Lozano
Oh,
in
okay,
the
okay.
what was the reason? Yeah, I was too raspy for it. He didn't want it like that. He wanted it more clean. Hey, just a clean vocal.
A year or two ago, I on YouTube, I put up all three versions together. You could
I
hear,
saw it.
yeah, you saw it?
Yes,
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 it was your version, followed by Evergreen Blues,
I liked ours the best, you know that.
Yeah, we liked ours the best, and they probably like theirs the best. But
Yeah.
they're all good, but they're all different.
Didn't you like the guitar work?
Oh, of course. Yeah. You were right off the
I
bat, you
liked
were
your
good on guitar on record.
I liked your version too, and I liked them all too. It was a good song.
Yeah. We had a great horn section on ours, great trumpet.
Yeah, you just named the best horn section I had seen. Evergreen Blues, man, they were tremendous.
Right. The Evergreen
Game.
Blues in the early 70s morphed into Elijah.
Yes,
Made two great albums, especially the one on United Artists.
love them all, man. Great group.
Yeah. So there was a real, by this time, we weren't so like young kids not speaking to each other. We were getting to know each other. And it was kind of a little community there with Strange Brew, Evergreen Blues, and us. We'd go over
Yeah,
and visit Steve Lawrence and.
remember the Den? They call it the Den over there in Montebello, Steve's place.
Yeah,
We used to hang there.
that's right. He was quite a guy. I mean, was a hustling guy, got things going.
Yeah, he's really, tremendous musician, period. Good vocalist, good keyboard player, and great sax player.
Yeah. Yeah. He played on a couple of my recordings in 72. Nobody's Satisfied and Hang On. The horn section from Elijah played, and he did a tremendous sax solo on just great. So what happened to Strange Brew? You did the album.
Well, we did the album. We did the whiskey, of course. We debuted.
You played the whiskey?
Yeah, we did, and we did the whole album there, and we just never seemed to. The chemistry wasn't happening. We started off all excited, and all of us are into different things now. We're into that's when the Cream was out. I was very much into the group The Cream. Eric
Oh,
Clapton and
big time. And Hendrix.
Hendrix, of course, and we're all of us were taking different roads. Okay, and we didn't the chemistry, I guess, like you would say with a basketball team like our poor Lakers.
Yeah.
We were friends, but we just there was no excitement no more. It was just we knew it was coming to an end. We departed as friends. No, 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 nothing negative, but we wanted to pursue other things. I wanted to do different things, different type of music.
And the record company didn't promote the album, probably, right?
Oh no, they didn't, and kind of depressing because all the guys, were just great guys, man. John and all the boys, man. It was a pleasure working with them. We had fun times, but it just wasn't happening anymore, Mark. It just nothing new was coming out of us. We became stagnant, and we ended up just breaking up, and it was not a bad breakup. You know,
But a bit of good news, though, is, decades later, maybe 5 years ago, I got an email from somebody saying, "Do you know anything about a group called Strange Brew?" I said, "Absolutely." They said, "Could you hook us up with them?" I said, "Absolutely." This guy was writing a book. It was a book about the psychedelic period, psychedelic bands, and
well,
psychedelic bands that were good but didn't necessarily get a hit. And so he
okay.
ends up interviewing Art Sanchez, and I don't know if he interviewed you, but you guys came out in that book. I think you got 3 or 4 pages in that book about Strange Brew.
I remember Art telling me, do you mind this? And then I said, no, go ahead, Art. Yeah, he did.
So that was cool. So anyway, after that, your next major group was Olde Tyme Religion.
Oh,
And you guys wound up doing two singles for Warner Brothers Records, no less. And
yeah.
that group had Art Sanchez, you, Steve Verdugo. Uh, who else was in the band? Eddie and
Eddie,
George, lead singers. Eddie,
I think our drummer was Mark Mora at that time.
the first drummer you had, Andy Orozco.
Yes, that was our first drummer. Yes. And then Andy, well, he looked like Frank Zappa.
He was on the first single.
Yeah, that was Andy Orozco. Yeah, that's our first drummer. Then we got Mark,
Then you got Mark.
and then Leon.
Yeah. And who played well, somebody told me that the second record you guys did, The Swimmer, was that a studio drummer or was that Mark Morrow?
Studio drummer, I think.
That's what I
Mark
heard.
doing that. No, you're right.
Yeah, I think it was a
Okay.
studio drummer.
Yeah.
But already I could tell that, you've always had a knack for playing well on record. That's a whole other talent, right? There's a lot of guys that can play gigs and shows, but you get them in a studio where you're under the microscope and you got to come up with tasty parts that serve the song and signature licks. You were good right off the bat.
Well, thank you, thank you.
I mean, I dug the stuff you did on The Swimmer. Some really nice parts.
Yeah, really tasty little things that Steve told me can just play as tasty and simple as you can. And I said, okay, that's what the song needed.
Yeah, yeah. When you're
Yeah,
making records, it always needs that, hooks, tasty licks. We're not in the way of the singer.
exactly.
Yeah,
Swimmer, yeah, and 47. That was a trippy song.
yeah. 47 cents. On the flip side of the first one was Glory, I Enjoy Being With You.
Itchy feeling.
That was on the second single.
Yeah, that was George. Yeah,
Yeah. So on
and
both records, it was George writing one song and Steve
yeah,
writing the other song. Side.
yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah. So from what I understand, how you got that opportunity with Warner Brothers was through Eddie Davis.
yes, yes.
Do you remember how you got hooked up with Eddie Davis?
It might have been Steve or George, one of those guys. But maybe Eddie. It was one of those guys. I can't remember who
Yeah.
knew who Eddie Davis was because they were playing with these different groups. They knew Eddie. I didn't know anything about Eddie Davis.
Yeah.
I think with Eddie Serrano has something to do with that. I think Eddie. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. For those
Yeah.
who don't know, Eddie Davis was he owned like 8 independent record labels, Gordo,
Oh,
Pharaoh, Rampart, and he recorded, the Blendells, the Premiers, Cannibal the Headhunters. He was like he recorded so many East L.A. bands, and Billy Cardenas would often find the talent, groom the talent, get him gigs, take him to Eddie, Eddie take him to the studio, and
yeah,
you know. But you guys made two good records, right? They were good records.
yeah, yeah.
But as usual, like with many of us, we got no promotion. I don't know if it had to do with our ethnicity, but we never seemed to get any promotion.
That's the story right there. And plus we're Mexican.
Well, that's our ethnicity part of it anyway. But yeah,
Well, it was a big part of it.
yeah, I think so. But so Old Time Religion morphed into Yaki. Steve Verdugo left. You replaced him with Larry Cronin on keyboard.
Larry, George, Eddie, Art, myself, and we got Ray Rodriguez and Rudy Regalado.
Yeah, Ray Rodriguez on drums, a great drummer, and Rudy
Rudy
Regalado,
was a drummer also.
a drummer also, and he played great timbales and congas and did that sometimes. But sometimes you guys had two drummers at the same time, right?
We did. Yes, yes, yes. And that group, we had our own rehearsal studio on Whittier Boulevard across the street from this Mexican restaurant. Back in the day, it was very popular. And we after rehearsal, we just go get burritos and taquitos and all that stuff. But we had a daily rehearsal, okay? And the band got super tight. And a lot of the arranging was me, Art Sanchez and myself did a lot of the arranging for the writers, the main writer was George, Larry Cronin, Art and I wrote Sunrise Sunset, uh, Bitote, Art and I, and George and Larry wrote the rest of the stuff.
Okay, so let me do this before we get on to finishing Yaki, before we get completely off of Old Time Religion. You guys played, you were the house band at
Carolina Lane.
Carolina Lanes. I mean, you guys were there, what, at least a year?
No, more than that. We even took a vacation. We were there for 3 years.
3 years.
It was just lines of people coming to see us, lines and lines. After the first year, we talked to the management, the guys that, the owners, and we need a vacation because we're doing 6 nights a week. Well, 6 nighters. We took a vacation for 2 weeks.
That was by LAX.
Yeah, the nudie bar.
And it was a
It was,
bowling alley, right? With a nightclub attached.
oh yeah, yeah. And those girls were always in there too.
But it was a cool venue because earlier at Carolina Lanes, I saw Chuck Berry. I saw Bobby Fuller 4. I Fought the Law.
Mm,
It was a cool venue. But I used to go there and hear you guys. And
remember, John Valenzuela came up. We jammed together, and
Steve Verdugo played there for a while with you guys. Did Larry Cronin play there too?
mm-mm,
He didn't.
no,
He joined when you guys started recording.
yes,
So that opportunity came through Art Brambilla,
yes, yes, yes.
right?
We
Which,
signed at the same time Tierra signed their record deal.
yeah, well, as you remember, Art brought us all into the studio, independent studios in Studio City. I went in and recorded 2 songs. You guys went and recorded 2 songs. Tierra
Mm,
recorded two. Various groups, or at least 5 or 6 groups. I wound up getting signed to Capitol Records. Um, Tierra got signed to 20th Century Records, and you guys wound up with Playboy Records.
yes,
And so all 3 of us were recording at the same time at the same studio, which was cool.
yes. That was Art. Yeah,
And Art had Brownback Productions, and he had an office on Vine Boulevard across the street from the Capitol Tower.
yes,
And we used to hang out there.
yeah, all the time.
So, but anyway, you guys made a great album, you know. We all made great albums. All, you know, Tierra, that first album to me is their best. I like
Right,
it.
right. Yeah, all of us. We all were doing good things, man.
And none of us got promotion once again.
Nothing, man. Nothing, nothing, nothing.
But that Yaki album is really great. I mean, you have George's Time for a Change, Tiempo por un Cambio,
Oh,
which
yeah,
did pretty well. And it's been on some compilation albums. The thing about your guys' album is that it was so eclectic, right? There was like one song, what was it called? I Need a Woman or something like that.
oh, yeah,
George
yeah,
wrote, it sounded like a freaking heavy metal thing.
yeah.
You guys were like heavy metal on that. Then you had Blue Harbor and you sounded like Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Yeah,
And then you had Mitote where you were like Santana.
right.
And then you had Sunset, Sunrise sounded like Led Zeppelin or something.
Yeah, like a Zeppelin tune. Yeah,
Yeah. And so you guys are like kind of all over the map, but you did everything great. I mean, that's
yeah,
like a killer
yeah,
album, man. And with George and Eddie, my favorite is She Caught the Katy.
yeah,
Holy shit. Killer vocals, killer arrangement. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Great. That was great doing it with you. I remember doing it with you.
yeah. So let's talk about that. We're kind of jumping ahead on the calendar, but it ties into Yaki. So so you guys made that album in 72.
Hmm.
Let's see. In 2005, over 30 years later, um, people started to email me like, "Hey, where can we get the Yaki album?" You know, and it wasn't available. So I called up Art Brambilla and I said, "Hey, man, is there a way that you can get that out again? You know, even if you just press up, you know, 100 or 1,000 CDs, you know, make it available." He said, "That's a good idea." So he did, and so he organized a reunion show at the Hop in Puente Hills. And by then, unfortunately, your co-lead singer, Eddie Serrano had passed away by then. He passed away in the
Yeah.
90s, right?
Hmm.
Like a very unfortunate accident.
Very. Yeah.
And so you guys asked me to kind of take his parts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that was beautiful, man. So I got to sing She Got the Katy with George and sing harmony on Blue Harbor and, you know, play guitar on your songs. And then you guys did my songs. You did On the Boulevard. Uh, I forgot what else we did. We did My Dad's Chuco Suaves. Did we do Get Your Baby? I don't remember. I forget. But we did three
Yeah.
or four of my things. and then I did the Yaki stuff, and the place was packed, right?
Yes.
It was great, and Rudy Salas was there, and Pat Vegas of Redbone was there, and a lot of our you know compatriots were there, and we kicked ass, right?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely. Yeah.
And that's on YouTube, everybody. If you want to go on YouTube and put in Yaki the Hop 2005, pretty much the whole show's there, individual songs, but man,
Great
yeah.
night.
And we had um, Larry Cronin was around still on keyboard. I brought in Willie Loya to play congas,
Yeah.
and it was you, me, and George, and it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great night. Yes.
I've had a relationship with you guys for a long time, and you guys have backed me on a few shows like that Ami Hacienda in 2017.
Yes.
We did I'm Brown and Get Your Baby and Chuco Suaves and On the Boulevard. So we
Yep.
and we're gonna do a big show coming up,
Yeah.
which we'll get to. And we did that Stars of East L.A. project, which we get into a little bit later. Uh,
Yep.
which I just saw the cover today. It's fantastic. And it's finished. The project's finished. But anyway, so now let's see. So now in the mid 70s sometime, you started playing with Cannibal and then the Cannibal Headhunters Band. Talk about that.
The one with Frankie Garcia.
Yeah, you started with him first, right?
Yeah, we went out to, well, our first job was up in Canada. It was a place called Oil Can Harry's in Vancouver. And we were Cannibal the Headhunters. Of course, they were Cannibal the Headhunters. We weren't. We were the Primitive Band. When we did the shows, he would introduce us and the Primitive Band.
And who are the guys in that band?
Art Sanchez, Ray Rodriguez, myself, and Jimmy Seville. Four-piece.
And we might mention that Jimmy Seville joined the tail end of Yaki.
Oh, yes, he did. Yes, he did. And so anyway, we started our career with Frankie, George, and Eddie. And Eddie was the longest member of Cannibal in the Headhunters. Eddie was with Frankie longer than any of the Headhunters ever were.
In 68 was when George Ochoa, Eddie Serrano, and Cannibal went to New York.
Yes, they did.
And then one other guy, I forgot who he was. Was it Tommy?
Tommy Lozano.
Yeah. And they lived
Yeah.
in New York for a year or so or more,
Yes.
toured the East Coast and did a lot of stuff.
So what happened there is because Eddie and I, and George, they're the ones that asked me to, we'd like to get our own band. Where Frankie's tired of using all these different bands. He used to just, go to the union and use a band that would back him up. He didn't want to do that no more. He wanted his own band and he had control over it. And then that's when we started. We got tight. We had our first gig, like I told you, and we were, it was really neat because Oil Can Harry's was the place. It was the place in Vancouver to play. This was a showcase place. And the place was packed every night. Great, great time over there. And Cheech and Chong were in the other room. We used to walk into the back, and there was a little alley to get to the back of the door to go up to Oil Can. And right next to us was Cheech.
Was that before they got famous?
Yes. We met them in the alley, and I remember seeing them in the alley, and they were becoming famous back then. They were, there was a buzz about them, Cheech and Chong. And I remember seeing Cheech and going, hey, orale. Hey, man, where you from? I said, East Los, orale. That's how we met. And Tommy Chong is, talking about, hey, man, you know what Tommy is. So we did that. We did Oil Can Harry's. I think we were there. God, it was like, those gigs were like 2-3 week gigs. We were guaranteed some more jobs out there in Vancouver and throughout Canada, which more, it never happened. We did Oil Can Harry's, met Cheech and Chong, which was great. Then we were stuck. We had no gigs. We couldn't get home. So we ended up staying at this house. Eddie Serrano hooked up with a girl, and we stayed at her house. The whole band, all of us, sleeping in the living room. and she worked at a bar, where they had entertainment, so she got us to play there, and people loved us there, and we didn't. They didn't pay all that much. We were just making money to get home now, and we were stuck out there, man, quite some time. Maybe about supposed to be out there maybe a month. I think we were out there almost 3 months.
Now tell me this though, when I interviewed Art, he told me about was this before or after the Soil Can Harry's, where you guys went up to Seattle or something, and you were on the bill with Linda Ronstadt?
Yeah, that wasn't with Frankie. That was with
I think it was Yaki, wasn't it?
yes, it was Yaki. And we were in Spokane. A lot of snow, man, at that time too. A lot of snow. Anyway, it was a fun time. We met Linda Ronstadt when she was young, and we were Yaki. Yeah,
That's right. Eventually, you wound up backing up Cannibal with Robert Zapata,
yeah.
and you wound up doing the 50 years of rock and roll.
Oh, it was yeah, 30 years of rock
30
and roll.
years of rock and roll. That's right.
That was Donnie Brooks.
So how'd that come together?
Well, the guitar player, excuse me, was a Billy Cormier,
Okay.
and Billy ended up leaving. I don't know why he left. I don't know why. But at that time, the keyboard player was Hank Dandini. Asked me if I would like to audition for 30 years of rock and roll. He explained to me they'd had all these artists, incredible amount, Tiny Tim and Mickey Dolenz and Chuck Negron, and keep going, just keep going. Al Wilson, Jewel Akins, the Tokens, the Drifters, the Black, all that. I said, what is this? He goes, it pays really well. We're going to tour 48 states and do all the main state fairs. I go, yeah, well, what do I have to learn for the audition? He gave me a couple of songs, about 4 or 5 songs. Pat Upton, I Love You More Today Than Yesterday, Al Wilson's Show and Tell, Birds and the Bees, and I learned a Yakety Yak coaster tune and a Drifters tune up on the roof. That was my audition. So I get to the place, and I guess they were auditioning guitar players, so I was like the third guy. I go in there and check this out. I plug in and kind of nervous, get relaxed. Okay, here we go. I hear a knock on the door. And Donnie Brooks, yes, we're busy. He goes, where's Ron Reyes? Is there a Ronnie Reyes in there? And he goes, are you in trouble or something? And I go, no. It was Conrad Lozano, David Hidalgo.
Really?
They go, Ronnie. And they came up, hugged me. They were rehearsing next door. We came to see Ronnie.
From Los Lobos.
With Los Lobos, man. And they kind of interrupted the rehearsal, but it didn't matter because Donnie Brooks, oh, Los Lobos, I'd like to get you on the tour. He goes, oh, we're really big. We're going to be leaving to Europe. So Donnie goes, oh, you know those guys? I go, yeah, they're friends of mine. Yeah, of course.
We remember the time we ran into them. We were rehearsing ourselves at, I think it was at a rehearsal on Santa Fe Springs, and they were in the next room also.
Yes.
And they came over and hung
Yeah,
out. And that was probably in the early 90s.
right. So anyway, I rehearsed with him, and then Donnie said, hey, good job, very good job. He knows, this gig, we don't have any charts or anything. You got to know all the tunes. There's no charts for anybody. So he gave me a couple of months to woodshit. He gave me like, God, 50 songs to learn, all the keys and stuff, and to memorize and get them done. And I go, does that mean I got the gig? He goes, no, I'm just giving you this, we'll make our decision. I didn't get the gig yet. I guess he did that to all the guitar players. About a week later, I get a call from Donnie. Do you want to do this job? I go, well, when's it start? He goes, well, the first gig starts in May. We did a local thing, and then we're going to be on the road from June, July, August, September. Well, we went on the road. Anyway, the tour continued for years and years after that. I was with them for quite a while.
So who were the band members at the time?
Hank Dandini, keyboards. Dennis Noda, bass. Zapata, Robert, drums. Myself, guitar. A guy named Phil on saxophone. A five-piece group. That was it. That was it.
And was Eddie Serrano already singing? Yeah, or he wasn't singing it.
He was representing Cannibal and the Headhunters. They all did like one or two tunes.
Right. But so didn't Cannibal himself go on the early tours with you guys till he retired?
No,
No.
no, no, no. It was all Eddie. Eddie Serrano
Hmm.
representing Cannibal.
Okay. With Cannibal's permission
Yes, he did.
to
Yes,
sing as Cannibal.
yes, yes, yes. And we remained Cannibal and the Headhunters. Backing up all these artists. Bobby Day and keep going. I mean, Lynn Berry,
Bobby Kimball of Toto.
we backed up Bobby Kimball, Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple. That was quite. That's all on YouTube too. And who else? We just the list goes on. I mean, Mitch Ryder. Mitch Ryder was cool, cool. That was all these guys were cool. Mickey Dolans, Chuck Negron,
Yeah.
just a number of artists. The list goes on and on. It was quite a tour, and it lasted quite a while. But all those guys are gone. Mike Panera from Ride Captain Ride,
Hmm.
Jerry Corbetta, Green Eyed Lady, Sugarloaf. A bunch of great guys, man.
So you did that for years. And what would you say, like from what year to what year, roughly?
Oh, that was in the, geez,
Was it mid to late 70s,
no, later than that, later,
80s?
80s, 90s, yeah, into that, yeah. And that lasted for a while, but like I tell you, everybody started leaving, passing away. Pretty much the whole thing, they're all gone.
So that 30 years of rock and roll tour kind of ended, but you guys kept going as Cannibal the Headhunters.
We kept going until, unfortunately, Eddie, passed away. It kept going after Eddie. Robert Zapata took over.
Mhm.
And, it's still happening to this day.
So what happened was, so all I know is that you were in that band, and till somewhere around 2010, uh, you were no longer in the band, and I came in and played guitar, and I think it was over a year period, and we did a dozen pretty cool shows, and at one point, sometime in 2011, um, we backed up Pat Vegas. So it was Cannibal the Headhunters Band, but we did some shows with Pat Vegas as Redbone. So we were playing Redbone songs. We were billed as Redbone. And I had played with Pat Vegas and Redbone before that in 2004, a little while. And so this was my second time playing with Pat. Um, but the first gig I did uh, with the Headhunters as Redbone with Pat was in Sacramento. And on that one, you and I both played.
Right, right,
And I remember one funny thing is the back line had twin reverbs. There were two twin reverb amps. We each picked
right,
one, and yours went faulty.
right. Yes, yes. Remember that?
Did they fix it or they replace it or what happened?
Replaced it, and I think I ended up using a jazz chorus.
Okay. But anyway, the point is we had played together enough by then that we knew how to play together. So we were very complementary. In other words, I did some of the leads and you did some of the leads and we'd, switch and whatever we did fit.
Yeah, it was great,
Yeah.
great.
And then after that, I went to El Paso, did some gigs with them, and you did not go on that one. So on that one, I
No,
did all the leads, and I was the only guitar player. But you weren't on that one. You probably had some other commitments. All right, so that kind of takes care of that whole story. But going back to the late 80s, that's the first time that we really started working together because at that time, you guys, and I forgot what name you guys were using, you made an album with Eddie Torres and Jimmy Seville. Um, I forgot what name you were going under.
ATM.
Was that ATM?
ATM. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but anyway, uh, I got to do an EP with Eddie Torres, and that was my On the Boulevard EP. And you wound up playing guitar on my EP, and Jimmy Seville played keyboard for songs that I had written. And you did some great leads. You did some great signature licks, like on the Boulevard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we started doing a lot of shows after that.
Yes.
So that's when we started playing together. And from then on, we did a lot of shows together, recordings together. Uh, but before we get on to all that, let's talk more about ATM. Now, didn't ATM, tell me when it first formed? Wasn't that much earlier?
Well, it was after all those groups, yeah,
Was it
because
after Yaki?
yes, yes, after all that, yeah, Jimmy and I had got together because Yaki had broken up, that ended, and we weren't doing much of anything. Jimmy and I were working a lot together, writing music together, him and I. And he said, let's put together an original group. But we were playing as oh, it was a group called the Captain's Kids, which was Richard Rosas on bass, Ronnie Lapine on lead vocals, uh, Leo Polonis, sax. Trying to remember the drummer.
What was that band called?
Captain's Kids.
So that was before ATM.
Yeah, we had Captain's Kids with Eddie Estrada. We had two guitar players, Eddie Estrada, female vocalist. We we started playing all the Carlos O'Briens and all those restaurants around town, and we were with Harmony. You remember Harmony Artists?
Yeah, yeah.
We were with them, and we did a lot of gigs. There, once again, these six nighters, and Richard was with us. Richard Rosas.
Yeah, my old bass player.
Yeah, Richard, and we continue to do that, and that kind of dissolved. I'm trying to remember. Then that's when ATM formed.
What did ATM stand for?
A todo madre.
But I also heard that somebody said it stood for all those Mexicans.
Oh, and also Atmosphere. ATM, Atmosphere. David Torres. It was David and Jimmy together. Richard Rosas. That's when we didn't have Ronnie Lapine yet. We were looking for a singer. And Robert Zapata on drums. Robert. Leo, the sax player, on the alto.
Hmm.
Then we auditioned singers and we found Ronnie Lapine.
He was good. In fact, he sang on my On the Boulevard album too.
And that's ATM. And then it's all original band, all original. And Jimmy and I wrote everything. And we have a lot of recordings out there too, with ATM. And David didn't end up staying in the group because he got a call from Poncho Sanchez to be his
David
musical
Torres,
director.
yeah. David Torres originally was in the First Theater, on the First Theater album. Played great keyboard, played trumpet, later played the Chapman stick. Just a brilliant musician and a great guy.
Very, very amazing.
Now, was he still in the group, or wasn't it a slightly different group when you guys did your album with Eddie Torres when I did my On the Boulevard EP? Was that a different group? I know it was you and Jimmy.
That was us. Yeah, that was me, and that was still ATM, I think. Yeah.
So you think David Torres was still in on that? Or had he
Yeah,
joined Poncho already?
in and out because he was doing things with Poncho now. So, but he was a big influence on the group. great, just a great musician.
He became Poncho's music director for many years.
Many, many years. Yeah. Great guy, man. Just a great guy.
Yeah. I try to make these shows in chronological order, but it's impossible sometimes. But here's something I want to bring up. It was an important story from the 70s when he played at the Whiskey, I think with Yaki
Yes.
and
Yeah.
uh, and the guys from Chicago and the Terry Kath story. Talk about that.
Well, first of all, I saw Terry Kath and Peter Cetera in the audience. And I went, oh God, this is like, this is like that's Terry Kath, my God, and Peter Cetera. I love Terry Kath. He's just an amazing guitarist, and Peter's such a great vocalist and bass player. And I'm gonna go around and play in front of Terry. No, no. I was scared. I was nervous, you know. But we were so well rehearsed, and I just ignored it and closed my eyes and just played. So after our first set, Terry comes up. He goes, "Hey man, I really like the way you play." I laugh. I go, "Terry Kath." He goes, "Let's go upstairs. Let's talk." So we went upstairs, and upstairs, Shaka Khan was up there. Rufus, Steve Miller, of course, Peter Cetera and Terry's talking to me, and he's going, man, you really sound great, man. I love the way you play. And I said, I don't even know what to say. I said, like, you're amazing, man. You're like my favorite. I love the way you play. He goes, oh, well, I do my best. I go, yeah, well, you're incredible. Even Jimi Hendrix said that was his.
Yeah.
I didn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't believe it. He goes, hey, I'm going to ask the sound man to turn you up. I want to hear you some more in the second set. You got some featured solos? I go, yeah, I do. So he had the sound man turn me up and came up again. He said, yeah, man, you sounded great. And let's go hang out. We'll hang out. And I'm going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to bring some people. He came both nights.
Amazing. Amazing.
And Terry Kath, Mark, I mean, I saw Chicago at the Whiskey. And I didn't even know what to tell you about how freaking good these guys were. And to get a compliment from somebody like that,
Yeah.
it just leveled me. I was humbled because of he's so great, Mark.
Okay.
He's so
And
great. And when he passed away, it just broke my heart.
he tragically died playing Russian roulette, right?
Oh God, yes, with that gun, yeah, man. Guy was great.
He was.
Oh my God, man, it was the most incredible night ever.
Yeah.
Just
Amazing.
amazing.
So after we did the On the Boulevard project, then we started doing gigs. In the early 90s, for a minute, I started a band called Radio Aztlan because it
Mhm.
had been like 15, 20 years since I had a band to do my original music. And so I formed this band, Radio Aslan. You, Leo Valenzuela on bass, Bill Reyes on drums from Los Illegals, and who else was in that? Alex Armstrong, rhythm guitar. And but at that time there weren't any gigs to be had, and I think we just played one gig. We played Olvera Street. We played the Golondrina restaurant,
Yeah.
and it was great. I've got a video of it, but unfortunately it's really dark, but you can hear us. And we had a few problems, and I just kind of disbanded it. And then, but we did do four recordings on an 8-track in Leo's garage. And there were songs of mine, Whitewash, Radio Aslan, Orale, and one other one. I can't think of what it is. But those are great, man. Those are great recordings.
Oh, I remember that. I was gonna tell you, but I remember rehearsing at Leo's garage. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Great Mango, too.
Yeah.
But once again, you did great signature licks on everything and some cool solos on If I Could Touch Your Life. But on those other four in the garage, Whitewash. He played some great licks. Um, we accomplished something. Made four recordings. We did that one show. And then, like 10 years later, I resurrected the band and I called it Mark Guerrero Radio Aztlan. And that was a different lineup, but you were in that. And that's when we started doing a lot of shows.
Yes.
And we did, I have them here. I think the first one we did was the Galaxy Theater in Santa Ana.
Yeah, Galaxy Theater. Yep.
Yeah, and it was with Tierra, Malo, Rocky Padilla and friends, and Mark Guerrero Radio Aztlan. So it was amazing because we just kind of got together. We'd have just a couple of rehearsals and we'd be on the bill with bands like this that play together all the time, right? For years, and we got to go up there. But we held our own, didn't we?
Oh, we did. Yes, we
Yeah.
did. I wonder though, Mark, to this day, I often wonder when I did those recordings with you in Palm Springs, I remember coming home and saying, I think he's got a couple of hit records here. He's gonna make it big, and I got to play with him. I hope that he keeps me in his band. Because I said he's gonna get a hit record. It's just gonna happen.
Well, there were a lot of them that sounded like hits, right? If I Could Touch Your Life, On the Boulevard.
I thought that was a for sure hit. For sure.
Yeah, but again, we didn't really have a real record label. We had no real promotion. Same old story. But the second one we did was at the Hop in 2002, and with Tierra, Malo, and us again. And then
Mhm.
we did, it was a preview of the documentary Chicano Rock, The Sounds of East Los Angeles. And there was a show at the Autry Museum. And I'll show the flyers on all these as we talk. This one was with my dad, the Midnighters, and me. Does this say Radio Aztlan? Yeah, with Radio Aztlan. And we played at outdoors during the day. Big
Mhm.
crowd. Mayor Villaraigosa was there, and Rudy Salas was in the audience. Max Ubaez of the Romancers introduced us. By the way, I just recently put a post on Instagram of one of those performances where Max introduces us and we do Streets of East L.A. So we played for that. And then we played at the John Anson Ford Amphitheater.
Mm.
I think this was a tribute to my dad, if I'm not mistaken. But on the bill here was Diana Ortelli and Mi Tierra Dance Company, Liz Torres, the comedian, Richard Montoya of Culture Clash, um, Trio Los Panchos. Now, the
Mm.
original Trio Los Panchos were in the 50s and were the biggest band, the biggest group in Mexico. And they did a version of my dad's Nunca Jamás way back in the 50s. Well, these Trio Los Panchos were the young version. It might have been some of their sons, but it was like a new version of Trio Los Panchos, and they were great. So we played that show, and that was great. You know, as you might recall, it was like 1,200 people sold out.
I do.
Yeah.
We did some good stuff, man. Some great stuff.
And that was a great band, man. That was a nine-piece band, you know. Uh, then we did, and I'm not sure if this is the order, but 2003, we did the Latin Oldies Festival at that minor
Oh,
league stadium in San Bernardino.
yeah, yeah. Wow.
And that bill was Tierra, the Midnighters with Little Willie Chi, El Chicano, Mark Guerrero and Radio Aztlan, East L.A. Review All Stars, featuring the Premiers, The Best of Everything, and Cauldron. It's quite a lineup. And that's on YouTube. You can find that. Um,
Wow, man.
and then we did the John Ensign Ford again, I think in 2004. And this was for Day of the Dead, us and El Chicano.
Chicano. Yeah.
And that one we played great. That was one of the highlights for me of my whole career.
Great, man. And then it rained.
Yeah, right. But we had a nine-piece band. Uh, Steve Alanis, Alex Armstrong, you, Leo Valenzuela on bass, my
Man.
cousins, Johnny
Oh,
Guantimbales, and Aaron on congas. And it was a killer band. We were doing all my songs from that era, and that place went crazy. And it couldn't have been better. I remember this one girl came up to me afterwards, and she goes, "Where have you been? How come I've never heard of you?" I said, "Well, I've managed to stay under the radar, you know." But no, we were as good as we could have been.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. That was
unfortunately for El Chicano, just when they were getting ready to play, the skies opened up and it poured.
oh, I felt so bad. Oh, what a night that was.
It was very
God.
special. That's on YouTube as well. So,
We started off great and we just kicked butt.
yeah. And then we wound up a little later, uh, 2008 or so. We played in Tucson a couple of times. Once at
Yeah,
La Placita Village, I think it was called, outdoors. We had a similar lineup, most of the same guys, but we had a different keyboard player, a guy named Tim Jones that had been playing gigs with me on
yeah,
keyboard.
yeah.
And we had a local sax player from Tucson that played great.
Right,
And
right.
then the other time we went to Tucson, my dad was with us, and we played the Tucson Convention Center, and Linda Ronstadt was in the audience. It was some kind of an event protesting the fact that they were tearing down the Tucson Barrio. They tore down a part of it to build the convention center. But Linda Ronstadt was there and she spoke. And my dad, I think we might have backed my dad on three songs at that.
Yeah, yeah, we did.
And then we did our cover band stuff just for dancing.
Right. I thought he got an award that night from Linda presented.
Yeah, he might have. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then we played the Autry again a year
Oh,
or
yeah.
two before my dad passed. And I think the first time we played the Autry played was like it was 2003. 2004 we played again there, and we played at night this time. And on
Mm,
that one, we backed up my dad on a few, like we did the first time,
right.
and we did my stuff. But what made that last one special was my dad, like I said, he passed like about a year and a half later. He was already suffering from a bit of dementia, but he still got through the show and the people loved him, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you got to talk to him backstage, talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Went backstage and I was talking to your dad. He asked me to tune his guitar. So I tuned it up and we're talking and he says, "Hey, Miko, can you tune my guitar?" I go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I tuned it. And then he said it again. Miko, I said, Lalo, what? Can you tune my guitar? And right then and there, I said, something's going on here. We got to play. Something's going on. But he was gracious. I tuned it. And he strummed it. He goes, "Okay, thank you, Leo. Good. You tuned it. Okay, good, good." And I went, I'm going to go talk to Mark. Uh, hey, Mark, something's going on with your dad. And then you told me, yeah, I know he's repeated himself several times. And that's a sign of dementia.
Right. So that was challenging for me. I played with him a lot the last few years, like between 99 and he passed in 2005. I played with him a lot and he got more and more dementia, but he always managed to still sing the songs. And sometimes I'd have to help him. I'd have to jump in and help or feed him a lyric. But he was a hit through all that, man.
Oh, yeah, he was a hit that night.
Yeah, people loved him. And
Oh, in there? Yeah.
the last time I ever played with him was in late 2004. And he came up and sang Chuco Suaves with me. And he was dancing around and he was having fun. And then after that, he did one more gig in Tucson, sang a song or two with the mariachi, and then he passed. So, I mean, he was singing and performing to the end, you know,
Yeah.
and to the end, they loved him and he managed to.
Yeah, that was quite a pleasure. A big, big thing in my life. Just a wonderful thing. He was so just professional, so animated and funny as can be. He would tell jokes that just come right out,
Yeah.
out of anything. He'd make a joke.
Oh, he's funny as hell, yeah.
Oh, he was just funny. You know, you say something, then he says something. Wow, where do you get that? Oh,
Right, right.
pretty amazing.
Yes. Another one we should probably mention is when you guys backed me up at Ami Hacienda and Pico Rivera in
Oh, yeah.
2017. And Tierra was on the bill. Pachuco Jose y Los Diamantes were on the bill. And
Right,
and
right.
amazingly, I wound up singing my dad's Tin Marin with Pachuco Jose's band. Then I did 3 or 4 songs with you guys. And then Tierra backed me on Chuco Suave. So I sang with every band. But you guys really backed me great on, I think it was Get Your Baby, On the Boulevard, Chuco Suaves, and I'm Brown.
Brown, yeah.
And those are also on YouTube. And, you guys played great. Yeah. So, like I said, we have a tremendous history apart and together. And, um, and we probably should mention that we worked on a project, a few months ago
Oh,
with Art Brambilla,
yes,
where
yes.
Art wrote a song about our era, about the 60s and 70s in East LA. And it was a shout out to the oldies. It was a shout out to old school music. It was a shout out to the bands that were playing at that time. So in the lyric, it mentions the Midnighters and various bands, the Enchantments, and then during the sax solo, all of us who were singing on the project would name the bands. Oh, there were so many great bands like the Emeralds and the Amber Tones, and so it's a tribute, it's an homage to the music and the groups of the 60s and early 70s in East LA. So when he told me he
Yeah,
wrote that and he wanted my help, I said, yeah, man, anything East LA, I'm all in. And so I recommended you guys to be hired as the band. And so
yeah,
we wound up cutting the basic track. I played guitar with you guys and we cut the basic track.
yeah. That was a fun time. Yeah.
And then you and I played lead guitar together, and that was fun. We did it in one take. At the end of the day, there was no more time. Okay, now you and Ronnie do a solo, on this up-tempo tune, right?
That was fun.
And we just soloed for like, I think I'd take a turn, you take a turn.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then at the end, we soloed at the same time. And it came out great, man. And you haven't heard the finished product yet.
No, no.
It's finally finished, 2 songs.
How'd it come out?
It came out great. I think you'll love it. George Ochoa wound up singing part of the lead of the first song, and Greg Esparza, who sang with the Midnighters a lot in the 2000s, sang lead on um, most of the first song and all of the second song. And a guy from the Storytellers, also named Ochoa, I can't think of his first name right now, unfortunately. He
Right,
sang a
right.
little part of it. And I sang backgrounds, and we brought in a bunch of great female vocalists like Jerry Gonzalez, Irma Cuiqui Rangel, Isela Sotelo, and Nancy Sanchez, a great young, up and coming, great singer. And anyway, um, Bobby Navarrete of the Midnighters and Tierra came in and played sax. David Reyes played baritone. Uh, I brought in Dale
Well,
Villavicencio of Tierra, played timbales and congas. And so it was like an all-star East LA old school musicians played on this project.
yeah, it was great, man. Can't wait to hear it, man.
Yeah, it's really great, man. And you played great on it. And Yaki played great on it. Jimmy Seville, Art Sanchez. But we had a substitute drummer because Ray Rodriguez couldn't make it. Sergio Gonzalez.
Sergio Gonzalez.
Yeah, he did a great job. So yeah, that's going to be a really good project, and once it comes out, it's going to be pretty interesting. And the last thing to talk about is the show we have coming up.
Oh,
Um, so there's going to be now, of course, this video will be on YouTube for years, so we have to say that we're talking now in um May 1st of 2025. So, but coming up. this June is going to be an exhibit at the La Plaza de Cultura y Artes in downtown LA, across the street from Lavera Street. And it's
Hmm.
going to be an exhibit about the history of East LA music from the 50s to the present. And I'm a curatorial advisor on it, and I'm a consultant, and I've been working on it for the project for a year. But I was working on the Great Day in East LA project, that it's called, with Piero Giunti, who conceived of the project. I've been working for like 10 years with him on that. So it's been a long time coming. You were interviewed for that project too, way back, Great Day in East LA. And we interviewed like 150 or more people. But anyway, the exhibit's going to open. It's going to run for a year and a half. And there's going to be 3 concerts. The first one on June 28th, which is the opening day of the exhibit 2025. And then there'll be another concert in July, and in September is the third concert. The third concert I'm playing, and I get to do a thing of my whole career, from Mark and the Escorts to tango, or A&M stuff and Capitol stuff that I did solo. And then a couple of my dad's songs and my later stuff, like On the Boulevard, Streets of East LA, all the way to 2025 in 45 minutes. And um, my guys from Mark and the Escorts and Tango are going to back me up on the first part of the show, and Yaki's going to back me up on the second part of the show. But so it's going to be really great for us to, at our age now, our advanced age, to be able to do a show like that in a setting like that and represent my whole musical journey. And I thank you guys for doing it. You guys are always there for me and I'm there for you. Like I
Oh,
came and played for you guys. We're there for each other.
yeah, I can't wait, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that first rehearsal. And we can rock. So, man, we
No,
covered a lot of stuff. Is there anything we missed that you'd like to talk about,
let me see.
or anything you'd like to say about your overall career or the whole East LA scene? You know?
The whole East LA scene has been a gift. When I started, like I told you, the way I started it's unbelievable that we're still doing it. And as long as you're having fun, and we've been through a lot of things, Mark, all of us, we've been all over the place. We toured, we've done back to big giant artists, a lot of recording. And it's what a pleasure it has been to play with you and your recordings, because you're such a great writer, man.
Thank you.
And you heard my CD, which was quite a different,
Yeah,
different,
very, very sophisticated.
different, but that's me, and I appreciate you, and I love the chemistry that we have together. There's no head trips, man. There's no ego trips. It's
Right.
just
Yeah, there's
go
no
out,
competition anymore for a long time.
oh, no, nothing, man. Do your thing, I do my thing. We work together, and it's great because the chemistry is great. And all the guys you have working on the project with you are great. Just great players, man. So people, come out September the 6th.
6th. And also I added Sal Rodriguez, the drummer from War, is going to play timbales and congas with us.
Oh, that's going to be a
That's
treat.
going to be great. And then I got my favorite sax player, Steve Alanis, who we've played
Oh,
with a lot. So it's
incredible.
going to be a killer show. And I'm looking forward to it. It's our chance to really show what we've, with all our experience where we're at now. Yeah, we never dreamed right back in the 60s when we were doing our thing in the 70s that we'd still be rocking 50 years later or whatever it's been.
Oh, no, man. And we're doing it. We're doing it. And we're still playing. And
And
it's
we're
been
better
one.
than ever. Don't you think we're better than ever? Like I know I play guitar better than ever now. You
Oh,
know,
yes. Absolutely, Mark. I mean, we create right there on the fly. We
right?
create. And I'll do something. You say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said, oh, that's cool, Mark. And that's what I call chemistry and working together. When you have that, you can't beat it, man.
And one of the highlights of you and I playing together is on every show we've played together, we usually close with I'm Brown, and you and I do those double solos, and that blows people's minds, you know. Uh,
Well, it's going to be a lot of guitar players this
yeah,
time.
we're gonna have four this time, you know.
Hey, it's going to be fun.
And John Valenzuela, who was on my original I'm Brown record.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah, but whenever we've done the double solo anywhere, we also played at the $1 Million Theater, remember? For
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah,
for the
yes, yeah.
premiere of the Chicano rock documentary when it was finally finished. And we played at the legendary $1 Million Theater where all the great Mexican acts used to play in the 50s and 60s. And that's on YouTube as well. But we did one of our double I'm Brown solos. And every time we do it, we tear the roof off the place, you know.
Every time, every time. The crowd just loves it, man.
We also did it on the Mr. Duran show
Yeah, yeah.
with the
He
Cannibal the
was,
Headhunters Band
he was going, oh
backing
my
me up.
God.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. Well, that was interesting too. We must say this is that the way I started playing with the Cannibal and Headhunters band at all was Robert Zapata gave me a call and we started talking and we said, we should, get together and just jam sometime. And so we rented a little Ray studio in East L.A. and we started playing. We just played for fun. And then all of a sudden I got this opportunity to play Pima College in Tucson. And I said, hey, you guys want to come and back me up? So we went to Tucson and did my material. You guys backed me up. It was my show, but you guys backed me up. And it went so great. And then suddenly, I think Zapata hooked us up with the Mr. Duran show. And we did the Mr. Duran show.
We did that, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if the Duran show came first or the Tucson, but they both were around the same time. And that's what got me playing with Zapata and the Headhunters band. And then years later, I wound up playing with him, like I said, for a little spell. But that's the East LA music community. We know uh, unlike the 60s, we started cooperating with each other and creating with each other, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah.
that's a lot of stuff we've done together and
Boy,
we're still rocking and we got something to look forward to still.
a lot of stuff. And we got a rehearsal coming up, so
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So that's
yeah.
it, man. I can't think of anything else. Thank you for doing the show. I've been trying to get you for 2 years. It's like trying to get Elvis for an interview. I had to chase you, man.
It's been great. And I got this little unit here, this little that I learned how to use, boy.
Yeah. Well, that was part of it, the technology, right?
Yes, yes. And now we could hook up like this anytime,
That's right. Yeah.
which is cool.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I've seen a lot of your interviews, and they've all been like, "Wow, I said, man, this guy's good. Mark, you do a great job, man.
Thank you. I love
Great
doing
job.
it, man. Love doing it.
You do a great job. You ask the right questions. You take everybody back to the start, and then you end up where we're at now. And you can't beat that. A lot of great guys.
Yeah. And now you're one of the people that's going to be on.
Thank you. Hey,
Yeah.
thanks. We go way back.
Yes, we do. And I'm so glad I got to do the interview with you because your story is an incredible one and one that had to be part of this whole series, had to be.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
My
man.
pleasure.
And I'll
Thank
see
you.
you at our rehearsal on, I think it's May 26th or
Yeah,
28th.
I got it on my
Yeah.
calendar. So
We will rock again on that day and then on September 6th.
remember my parts again,
Now you'll remember they're in your DNA by now. Okay, Ron,
Right
thanks
on.
again. I'll talk to you later, man.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.
Yeah, we're doing this at night too. It's midnight. I've never gone this late on an interview. But okay, man. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.